And now, your 5 o'clock news on Channel 14.
Welcome into WCTV's Newscast live at 5. I'm Meg Berry.
And I'm Sarah Clegg.
Waynesburg University debuted its new musical, The Lightning Thief, yesterday. Wyatt Clatterball caught up with the play's director and lead, Jonah Gano, after night one at the Goodwin Performing Arts Center.
Waynesburg's Fine Arts Department is putting on another musical this spring with Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Junior Jonah Gano shared his thoughts on what it's been like getting to play the lead Percy Jackson and work with the cast.
It was surreal. That's literally the only word I have for it. It was surreal. This cast and crew is amazing.
Director of Theater Ted Watts is putting on his second production at Waynesburg. Watts commented on the difference of the musical from the play.
Well, it was great. I mean, the play was really exciting, and this is quite a diversion from that because it's a comedy, it's a musical comedy. The music is super current, and I thought the kids would be really excited about it.
Watts also talked about how this production is different than anything he has done in the past.
Fun because the students are getting so much opportunity here to be creative and add their creativity and themselves spiritually and creatively to the overall process.
Last night was opening night of the show, but don't worry, you still have a chance to go see the other shows. The show will run March 20th through 22nd with all the shows starting at 7:30 p.m. For WCTV, I'm Wyatt Clatterball.
This week is Orange Week at Waynesburg University with different events every day for students to be able to relax and enjoy the nice change in weather. Meg Berry gives us a closer look at what Orange Week is.
I got my cookie and my icings, and of course I had to grab the smiley face because today in the Beehive we're decorating cookies in honor of Orange Week. Orange Week is an annual event at Waynesburg University that offers up fun events to bring the campus community together, all for one big purpose.
So the importance of Orange Week, we hold events like this to bring students together to, learn more about what Orange Week is all about, and it really just offers kind of that overlap for students to be engaged, for the community to come together, to, ultimately fundraise so that we can continue to have, different academic programs and athletic programs here on campus.
What better way to bring students together than a cookie decorating contest? Students gathered their supplies and began to decorate. The best ranked cookie received the top prize of a beach chair, beach towel, and a Waynesburg University travel mug. And there were 2 honorable mention winners as well who won some Waynesburg University school supplies and a Waynesburg University logo bag. It may not be pretty. It is supposed to be a smiley face, believe it or not, but it sure is delicious. Meg Berry reporting live for WCTV News. Next week, there are multiple events available to attend for students. First, the Money Matters series wraps up in Stover Hall on Monday at noon. On Tuesday, it's the 175th Charter Day Convention in Roberts Chapel, where President Douglas G. Lee will be speaking, followed by the annual Charter Day Luncheon in the Benedum Dining Hall after. And on Wednesday, a women's self-defense seminar will be held in the Rudy Marisa Fieldhouse at 5 p.m.
On National Agriculture Day this past Tuesday, members of Josh Shapiro's administration visited a dairy farm to celebrate. Agriculture Secretary Russell Redding visited the Neasley family's 10th generation dairy farm to see some of the progress of the Shapiro administration's investment into Pennsylvania agriculture. Speaking to media at the farm, Redding said, quote, "At Jubilee Dairy and family farms like it across Pennsylvania, we are seeing the results of our investments with and for our farm families. On kitchen tables and in the businesses and communities that depend on family farms succeeding, we can see firsthand how the Shapiro administration investments are feeding Pennsylvania's economic future," end quote.
Coming up, astronauts return home from a lengthy trip to space, and Ukraine President Zelensky visits Finland.
Plus, an update on a missing student and a look into a measles outbreak in southern states. All that and more on the newscast.
Welcome back to the newscast live at 5. NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore safely splashed down to Earth aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule Tuesday evening. The Crew 9 astronauts landed off the coast of Florida near Tallahassee. Lehigh Walderman has the latest from Johnson Space Center in Houston on the journey back to planet Earth.
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
A harrowing finish to the end of a long journey. Parachutes deployed, slowing the capsule barreling towards Earth. The Crew 9 astronauts landed off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
And SpaceX Freedom splashdown.
NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov rode alongside Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, finally back to Earth, splashing down Tuesday evening after Butch and Suni spent more than 285 days aboard the International Space Station. The Boeing Starliner they rode up to space in was deemed unfit for them to return on due to helium leaks and propulsion issues. The pair was able to hitch a ride back home aboard a SpaceX Dragon capsule.
We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Suni, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
After their splashdown, recovery vessels zoomed up to the Crew Dragon, standing at the ready after the capsule plunged back into the atmosphere. SpaceX recovery ship named Megan used a large rig to haul the capsule, carrying the astronauts out of the water. Afterwards, the crew was slated to be flown to Ellington Field and finally taken here to nearby Johnson Space Center to eventually be reunited with their families.
The big issue is these two astronauts missed their families.
The astronauts were originally slated to be away from home for an 8-day mission, but had their timeline extended to 9 months. Back here on Earth, their capsule was greeted by dolphins. At the Johnson Space Center, I'm Lee Waldman.
President Donald Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky earlier today. This conversation comes just weeks after the two leaders had a heated sit-down meeting in the Oval Office. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook is at the White House with what we know about today's phone call.
President Donald Trump is describing his hour-long conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as a very good one, adding that he believes the discussions to end the war in Ukraine are, quote, on track. He also said, quote, much of the discussion was based on the call made yesterday with President Putin in order to align both Russia and Ukraine in terms of their requests and needs.
The leaders agreed Ukraine and America will continue working together to bring about a real end to the war, and that lasting peace under President Trump's leadership can be achieved. The two leaders also agreed on a partial ceasefire against energy. Technical teams will meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days to discuss broadening the ceasefire to the Black Sea on the way to a full ceasefire.
During Trump's call with Vladimir Putin on Tuesday, the Russian president also agreed to temporarily halt attacks on energy infrastructure targets in Ukraine, but stopped short of agreeing to a broader ceasefire. Russia and Ukraine exchanged aerial assaults just hours after. Zelensky has said that Putin's words are at odds with reality when it comes to Russian operations on the ground. Reporting at the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Late last year, it seemed like the Federal Reserve had pulled off the unlikely, tampering down the highest inflation in 4 decades without triggering a recession. Now, there are new economic concerns. Kara Kifa is in Washington to explain to the Feds the latest decision on interest rates.
The Federal Reserve staying cautious and holding interest rates steady amid growing economic uncertainty.
Labor market conditions are solid, and inflation has moved closer to our 2% longer-run goal, though it remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged.
The Fed stopped cutting interest rates back in January as signs pointed to inflation's descent stalling out and overall growth slowing, a troublesome combination. Complicating matters now, President Donald Trump's economic agenda, including the slashing of the federal workforce, shaking what's been a stable labor market, and his overhaul of trade policy, rattling consumers, businesses, and markets.
Confidence is very fragile. You can see it in the consumer sentiment surveys. You can see it among business people. Investments they plan to make, they're all pulling back.
Among the administration's moves to ramp up pressure on America's biggest trading partners, a slate of tariffs, some already implemented and some looming on imported goods from key U.S. trade partners Canada, Mexico, and China. Economists warn the policies could push inflation higher and sink consumer spending, putting the economy at risk.
recession is a loss of faith. We lose faith that we're going to be able to hold on to our job and businesses are going to be able to sell what they produce.
And force the Fed to course correct once again. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky arrived in Finland yesterday for a meeting between Ukrainian and Finnish parties. Zelensky said Wednesday that, quote, Putin's words are at odds with the reality, end quote, a day after the Kremlin agreed to temporarily halt attacks on energy infrastructure targets, but stopped short of signing off on a broader ceasefire sought by the U.S. In a press conference, Zelensky said, quote, when Putin said that he was allegedly ordering a halt to strikes on Ukrainian energy, there were 150 drones overnight, including energy facilities. These strikes were on transportation. Unfortunately, 2 hospitals were hit and on urban infrastructure. So Putin's words are very much at odds with reality, end quote. Zelensky said that on Tuesday night that while Kyiv supported the pause in attacks on energy targets, he wanted to know the details behind the proposal.
A young man granted his freedom, a family in deep grief, and an American college student still missing hundreds of miles from home. It's a mystery that's captured national attention and one that no one is closer to being solved. Lyra Aguirre reports.
A mother's anguish.
We kindly ask you to keep our daughter in your prayers.
And a father's painful resignation that he may never see his daughter again. 20-year-old Sadiqa Kananki vanished March 6th in the Dominican Republic while on spring break. Her last known sighting captured on resort security cameras in Punta Cana as she walked to the beach with friends. The man investigators believe was the last person to see her, Joshua Ribby, was granted his freedom by a Dominican judge Tuesday. Authorities confiscated his passport and questioned him several times, but have never called him a suspect or accused him of wrongdoing. A local Dominican news outlet reports Ribby told prosecutors he and Kananki went to the beach after drinking with friends, where they struggled in the rough waves. He says they both got out, and he last saw her walking in knee-deep water before he fell asleep on the beach. He woke up hours later, he said, alone.
We are coming to the terms with the fact that our daughter has drowned.
Kananki's parents believe their daughter drowned and have asked authorities to formally declare her dead so they can move ahead legally and emotionally.
This is incredibly difficult for us to process.
Ribby's Dominican lawyer celebrating the judge's ruling Tuesday.
Not only as an essential principle of justice, but also as a cornerstone of trust in our institutions.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Prosecutors say additional charges will be filed related to the deaths of Capsey's mother and stepfather at a preliminary hearing on March 24th.
The measles virus is spreading in 3 states. As of Tuesday, there are 321 cases confirmed in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. That is 25 more than what was reported on Friday. Texas has the majority, and the director of Lubbock Health Service feels this could be a year-long concern. Most of those infected were either unvaccinated or had an unknown vaccination status. Officials say 38 patients were hospitalized. 1 death has been linked to the outbreak.
And that will do it for national news. Coming up next is Kat Taylor with business and entertainment. But first, let's take a quick step outside with Deanna Hernandez for a look at the weather.
It's hard to believe that just yesterday we had some beautiful 80-degree weather. Temperatures have dropped over the last few hours pretty significantly, and it's gotten very windy out, as you can start to see. Stay tuned to see if this continues over the next week with your weather on the newscast here, live at 5.
To the newscast, I'm Kat Taylor with your business and entertainment update. Although Waynesburg University has already had their spring break, colleges and universities across America are coming up on their spring breaks, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation is reminding travelers to stay vigilant. The FBI has updated its online travel advisory system, warning spring breakers to be cautious when visiting a foreign country. They suggest a few tips to help travelers feel more safe and secure. Among those, avoid traveling alone, use authorized taxis, and beware of new acquaintances. You can find the latest travel advisory list at travel.state.gov. A consumer's deal with high egg prices, a Florida man turns iguana eggs into breakfast. As Ryan Abergos reports, the hunter is taking invasive species one egg scramble at a time.
From bullet
You're this guy.
to brunch,
These are fabulous.
it's the most Florida meal you will ever see.
This is the Johnson recipe special.
49 eggs.
It's all yolk.
Oh.
So what you're going to do here is actually we're going to cut open this sack that is, and we kind of squeeze it like toothpaste.
Plus the fixins.
We're going to have ham, we're going to have peppers, we're going to have onions, we're going to have all these things because that's how I cook my regular eggs.
Ready for the grill.
If you had to name this recipe, what are we calling it?
I don't know, Marco scramble. Well, it got to be the iguana scramble.
In just a few minutes,
This is coming along nicely.
we're ready for a plate.
Would you like any pepper or salt? Are you good with
Chef's
that?
choice.
Chef's choice.
And a taste test.
Cheers.
Bon appetit.
It doesn't taste like anything. Just tastes like regular omelet.
A meal you'll find nowhere else.
This is life on Florida, okay? You know, there's a thing called the Florida man. This touches the edges of the Florida man.
That might be different, but could save you a buck and the environment.
Tastes like eggs. I can't believe it, but it tastes like eggs.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot cheaper, too.
A lot cheaper, okay? This is great. You know, and these are local, so there's no tariffs.
The cost for families to travel to Disney World is in the thousands. That's according to a recent study by NerdWallet. On the low end, families can expect to spend $6,000 for a weekend-long stay. In today's Consumer Watch, Jen Sullivan has tips to try and keep the cost down.
It's known as the most magical place on Earth, Disney World. Millions of people visit a year, and while it's one of the most visited places in the world, it can also be one of the most expensive.
It is expensive and getting more expensive.
Sally French is a travel expert at NerdWallet. They recently looked at the cost of a trip to Disney and found on the low end, a 7-night trip for a family of 4 costs roughly $6,000. The high end, more than $15,000. But there are ways you can save.
There are plenty of off-property hotels that are still nearby that are much cheaper to stay at.
Another way to cut costs, visit one theme park per day. According to Disney's website, pricing varies by day, but a one-day theme park ticket can cost between $169 to $189 depending on the park. A park hopper will cost you upwards of $200 per person per day.
You might need to cram in multiple parks in one day, in which case a park hopper makes sense.
Disney does offer dining plans for guests to help keep down the cost, but packing your own food can help save a lot of money. Here's where your bill can really add up. Disney offers lightning lane passes to help you bypass those long lines. Multi-pass prices can cost up to $39 per person per park. Then there are the VIP tours, which can cost $450 to $900 an hour.
Those people who are keeping up with the Joneses, who want to have everything, all the bells and whistles, yeah, they might need to budget $15,000 for.
Another way to save, don't visit when kids have off of school. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
A former employee of M&M is facing federal charges for allegedly stealing and selling the rapper's unreleased music. Prosecutors say an FBI tip back in January claimed employees of M&M's Detroit area studio and discovered unreleased music on the internet. The music was linked back to a password-protected hard drive, which was only accessible by a few of M&M's employees. Authorities say one of those people is Joseph Strange, who allegedly sold the music for $50,000. A criminal complaint shows that FBI agents also found other items linked to M&M's in Strange's home. Strange worked for M&M, whose legal name is Marshall Mathers, from 2007 to 2021. Strange is charged with criminal infringement of copyright and interstate transportation of stolen goods. It's barely spring, but Hollywood is already thinking summer. David Daniel has a trio of new previews for upcoming films in today's Hollywood Minute.
Come on, brother. Grip it and rip it.
guess I need to update my happy place to something a little more age appropriate.
Nearly 30 years after he first hit the links, Adam Sandler is back in the official teaser trailer for Happy Gilmore 2. The comedy sequel is set to tee off July 25th on Netflix.
You're the matchmaker. You want a drink?
Sure. Coke and beer.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, John.
Dakota Johnson stars in Materialists as a high-powered matchmaker caught between an old friend, played by Chris Evans, and a rich suitor, played by Pedro Pascal. The romantic drama, written and directed by Celine Song, Oscar-nominated for Past Lives, opens in theaters June 13th.
Now, the Kremlin wants the world to believe that Russia is waging a war against terrorists. Its real purpose is a dedicated campaign of genocide.
Well, you said you were going to be tough on him. You've dropped a bomb on his doorstep.
I was aiming for his lap.
Maxine Peake stars in Words of War as Russian-American investigative journalist and human rights activist Anna Politkovskaya, who paid for her reporting on the Second Chechen War with her life. The political drama opens in theaters May 2nd, one day before UN World Press Freedom Day on May 3rd. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
That will do it for your business and entertainment update. I'm Kat Taylor. When we return on the newscast, Ethan Spazarski has your sports.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what are you doing? We're on in 30 seconds.
Fading up to Tyler and Mia in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Mia Hinkins.
And I'm Tyler Heron, and welcome
to Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome back to WCTV's live newscast. I'm Ethan Spazarski with your sports report. In the true spring spirit this week, baseball and softball are in full swing this week. The baseball team split a doubleheader against Pitt Greensburg on Monday, winning Game 1 23-8, but lost Game 2 11-10 in a 3-run 7th inning after Waynesburg led 10-8 entering that inning. The team is currently playing Pitt Bradford, and in Game 1 it ended with a 2-1 loss. While in Game 2, it's currently going on with the score being 6-0 in favor of Pitt Bradford. The team's next game will be brought to you by the Waynesburg University Sports Network on Saturday as the Yellow Jackets welcome Allegheny to town. Game 1 starts at 12 p.m. and Game 2 will follow right after. Softball remains on their hot 15-game tear into the season as the team is 13-2 in that span. The team split a doubleheader with Carlo and then scored a combined 33 runs against Penn State Greater Allegheny in their doubleheader, most recently including a shutout by freshman Madison Baker in Game 2. Baker had 7 strikeouts and only allowed 3 hits in her 5 innings of work before the run rule went into effect. The softball team heads back onto the field on Friday against I-79 rival Washington and Jefferson, with first pitch being at 3:30 and Game 2 to follow after. Speaking of full swings, men's tennis got their first win of the season by beating Pitt Greensburg. The team won 6-1 overall, with freshman Ethan Clausen winning his singles competition 10-7 and Sam Norris 6-3. Sophomore Tyler Gordon and junior Thomas Torcaso won their singles bouts as well. The team's next match is scheduled for next Wednesday, opening PAC play against Teal. Match will start at 4:30 p.m. Greene County, along with the WPIAL baseball and softball, have officially begun. For boys baseball, Carmichael's lost their first game against Charters Houston 71, but for Jefferson Morgan, Mapletown and Waynesburg Central all won their games of the first games of the season. West Greene will be playing its first game tomorrow at Cameron, with the first pitch being scheduled for 5 p.m. Looking into the upcoming schedule for these teams, Waynesburg Central plays Fort LaBeouf at 3:30 at home tomorrow. Mapletown takes on Fraser on the road, with first pitch being at 4:30 p.m. And the Rockets of Jefferson Morgan will play Greensburg Central Catholic on Monday at 4 p.m. And finally, Carmichael stays on the road and faces off against California at 4:30 p.m. In Greene County softball, Carmichael's, Jefferson Morgan, and Mapletown all won their first games of the season, while Waynesburg Central lost to Bell Vernon. West Greene's first game of the season was canceled. Looking back into the upcoming schedule for these teams, Waynesburg Central is on the road again against Jefferson Morgan on 2 Mondays from now, with that game starting at 4 p.m. West Greene is also on the road against California this Monday starting at 4:30 p.m. Mapletown is at Charleroi tomorrow at 4, and finally Carmichael's faces off against McGuffey on Monday at 4:15. Well, it is March, and that means it is time for the madness. Today marked the beginning of March Madness tournament. Now the playing games are wrapped up, and all 64 teams are looking to duke it out for the national championship. So far, Creighton beat Louisville, Purdue beat High Point, Wisconsin beat Montana, and Houston beat SIU Edwardsville. And currently Clemson is losing to McNeese, Auburn is beating Alabama State, and finally VCU is going to be playing BYU. For all the scores, stats, updates, bracket schedules, make sure to check on ncaa.com/March Madness. And finally, for Pittsburgh sports, the Pittsburgh Penguins sit in 7th place in the Metropolitan Division with 66 total points. That's 4 points behind the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have 70 in 6th place, and they are 7 points behind the Montreal Canadiens for the second wildcard spot. There are 5 other teams, however, in front of the Penguins right now for that second wildcard spot, with only a 3-point difference separating all of them. And the Pirates have just 4 spring training games left before opening day in Miami. The Pirates' first of those 4 games is against the Boston Red Sox tomorrow at 6:05 p.m. Opening day is on March 27th, however, and that first pitch is scheduled for 4:10 p.m. Stepping aside to take a quick look again for a reminder of our schedule. Woosen game on Saturday for men's baseball, 12 p.m. first game. Game to follow after. Softball plays tomorrow against W&J. And then the Penguins play the Blue Jackets in Columbus, 7 p.m. And then Pirates and Boston will play at 6:05 p.m. tomorrow as well. That's going to wrap up your sports report, but stay here because Deanna Hernandez has your weekly weather update on the other side of this commercial break.
Newscast live at 5. My name is Deanna Hernandez here with your weather update for the next week. Looking into tonight, temperatures are quickly dropping down to the 40s, making it a cool one. You can officially say goodbye to that 80-degree weather for the next week, as Friday will only reach a high of about 53 degrees and a low of 43. Make sure you get outside to enjoy that sunshine for a bit, as Friday will be the last sunny day in the next week. Heading into the weekend, Saturday is looking to be a cloudy day with a high of 55 and a low of 28. So you may just want to bring a blanket to that Waynesburg baseball game. Sunday brings in a chance of rainy weather with a high of 57 and a low of 46. Looking at our week, winter makes its return sadly with some cloudy days. Monday we are looking at a high of 58 degrees and a low of 36 with some showers. Tuesday will drop down to a nightmare 52 degrees and a low of 33 and some clouds. Wednesday continues with this cloudy pattern, looking at a high of 50 and a low of 32. And to round out our week, the sun will make a slight appearance finally, as we see some partly cloudy weather, a high of 46 and a low of 26 on Thursday. So I hope you didn't put away your coats and sweaters, because you're going to need them this week. This has been your weather update. I'm Deanna Hernandez, sending it back over to the desk.
Thank you, Deanna. And that will do it for the newscast live at 5. For everybody behind the scenes and in front of the camera, thank you so much for watching.
Stay tuned on our WCTV YouTube page and social media platforms for more Waynesburg content.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.